Okay, I spent all afternoon getting this ready to put together. I put in the bulkheads into the bottom piece, and I've glued in the tail wheel. I don't have much super fill left, so I'm going to have to make a call tomorrow to Wix and get some more. But we're going to do the inside of the fuselage anyway. Stir up the part A and part B because they become separated as they sit. I've got too much. I just eyeball this. I don't measure it. It's 2 to 1. I've got the plywood supports holding the bell crank next to the fuselage in there. We're going to put the fillet in and then glue the bottom block on so that I can sand out the inside. Now, because this model is not going to have to pull 45 pounds, I don't have to build it as stout as I do them big airplanes. However, I will not be afraid to pull 45 pounds with this for the simple fact of the way that it's built. But I'm not going to have to add as much fillet material inside. Now, I glued the fuselage on all the way around. Any gaps that I had, I cut shims and inserted them into the gaps. Wood is lighter than glue. It's also stronger. This superfill would never do fillets. It's just, but it will do the job inside the fuselage. Okay. So you just mix it up. I showed this on my Monado build as well. And we're going to apply fillet inside. Now, I think it was Eric Viglone showed me a syringe, and that's a good idea. I just don't happen to have one. So we got to do it the old-fashioned way. I've been doing it this way so long it doesn't much matter. And it does not have to be all that pretty inside. I mean, we'll clean it up, but we're not going to worry about how nice it looks. I don't want any more on than I have to. I just want a good joint. And the fillets on the outside don't go on until the fuselage is tissued. So that's quite a ways down the road yet. I'm going to be doing those big fillets just like I did on my Continental XL up here at the leading edge of the wing. Now in the plans it shows balsa wood, but we're not going to use balsa wood. We're going to use superfill. And I'll show you how I got such a nice job on the XL. Try to keep it out of the outside. pretty happy with the way this is coming out so far. This center, the center spar, and this block right here that holds that bell crank wire to the side of the fuselage is very important. I can't stress that enough. If you leave that out, you stand a chance of pulling the bell crank out. But like I said, this model here, I wouldn't be afraid to pull 45 pounds with it. We're going to turn this over and do the top too. I mixed up enough for the top as well. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I'm hoping that the explanation is good enough. I'll get a razor blade and scrape off any of the excess in the center that we don't need. We only need it to up against the fuselage side. We're not building a pipe tunnel here or anything like that. But before I do that, I'm gonna get it on the top side in case it starts to harden, because I do have it mixed pretty hot. Oh, it's so nice. It's so light. Oh yeah, it's hot. One of the guys asked, he mixed it 50-50, would it work? We had work, but you better hurry up getting it on. We don't need any on the engine bearers because it's all epoxy. There's lots of epoxy in there. That motor is, front of this airplane would never come off. So all we got is one more side, and then I can get out the alcohol and razor blade and clean her up. all those Continental kits that went out. I never saw one that was built except for Ty Martucci. Gary Hayjack had one, and it was a nice kit. I don't know what happened to that. He gave it away to somebody. I think Bill Sawyer and maybe it was Walter Umland did a kit. I'm not sure exactly. But there was 2 kits. But we don't need no kit. And I probably could have built this without the plans. I built so many of them. Well, it's been a while since I built them, so. Mine's going to differ in a paint job just slightly from Tom's. I'm going to have gold leaf instead of mailbox decals. And that looks pretty good. Different font than what he has as well. Now let's see if we can find the razor blade. Clean up a little bit of this. Way too much in there. Now a little bit of 91 proof alcohol on your finger. I remember when, in the days of epoxylite, somebody said, lick your finger. You'll do that once. Yep, you do that one time. All right. I'll show you what we got there. I'm going to glue the bottom piece on because we're done inside there now from the bottom. This is what we got. It's been super filled around the inside, up top and bottom. I guess we can clean off some of the top too. We've got quite a bit here. Just don't need that much. I don't know who came up with this idea, but it sure has served me well over the years. All right, we have that all wiped down sufficiently. It's like I said, it doesn't have to. We're not doing a super nice fillet. We're just, that's there for strength only. So next comes the gluing on of the bottom. First we'll test fit it, make sure that it fits okay. And it does. Look inside, make sure that the bulkheads line up. And they do. So we can go ahead and glue this down. And then we'll be all about finish sanding the piece. You know what? I think I'm going to glue a piece of 64th ply on the end of this before I go any farther. That way, we can push it up. Well, let's see here. Better bolt this down before I glue that on. I want a nice tight fit there at the cowl. Here. Yep, I better glue that piece of plywood on there first. If I don't, we'll have a problem. Remember I told you everything's about sequencing. At least it is to make it easy. I'm going to straighten up this edge on the belt sander. We're going to glue this on and rough shape it. Believe it or not, this airplane's coming out nicer than my Monado. Probably because I have a connection to it. Got that roughed in, get the block. That's the outfit. What happened there? It's got a little lump or something in it. I'm going to hit it on the belt disc sander to make that perfectly flat. That's better. Okay, so now we'll tack glue this on. I'll finish sanding it, and that's probably going to be as far as we go. This is still day 14, but I won't post it up till day 15. Because there's just not enough on here to post up. Do sand this out a little bit, file it out. So, like I say, we'll see you in a short. Thanks for watching. Hope you're enjoying the build. Tie lines. Alright, we're on day 15. It's all together. I did the push rod last night, and I'm working on the top piece. I've installed the bulkheads in the top, sanded them to shape. Get a close-up of that. And right here. And I put a cockpit floor in. It's a piece of 16th inch balsa wood with 64 ply laminated over the top. I also put on 1 coat of dope to get it sealed up, because you don't want any shavings or dust inside the cockpit, so that has to be sealed really well, because there ain't nothing more aggravating than do a real nice cockpit and have a piece of junk floating around in it. The push rod is in it, but the elevator stabilizer is not glued in. Now there's 2 ways to do this. The elevator and flaps are 0, and we could turn it upside down and glue it on the glass and do all the adjustments and this, that, and the other, or you can do it by eye and glue the top piece on first and then glue it in by eye. And I'm not quite sure what would be the best way to do this yet, so I think I also put a piece of 1/8 inch cap on the bottom of the rudder here so that it sits completely flat. We're going to glue it to the top of the stabilizer. That'll hold that on, but it also glues to the side of the fuselage where I slotted it in. So that's real good. I think what I'm going to do before I put the epoxy on the blind nuts, and there's another thing that you want to be pretty aware of in sequencing. I still haven't epoxied the blind nuts in on the motor mount in front here. And the reason being is when I put that epoxy in on the motor mount, I want to push this top block down onto it, tape it down to it so that the epoxy is on both sides. And if you did it first, you'd have to chip the epoxy away to get the top piece to lay flat. And I just don't want to mess with that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the motor out of it, and I will clean up the table and turn it upside down, and that way we can jig the wing parallel to the table, and this will lay flat on the table, and I can measure the trailing edges. It's already got the center lines on it. Measure the trailing edges so that it's in square, and that'll probably be the best way to go about getting it perfectly in line. So give me a few minutes to clean up the mess, and we'll be back. Let's see what it weighs. We could put the rudder on it. I keep checking the weight all the time. I ordered some more superfill today, plus another gallon of thinner, which is ridiculous, but I got permission from Eric and Scott at Wix to go ahead and use part of their website on Control Line Craftsman to give you the exact products that I use. And let's get a weight here. So, we'll get out the calculator that even makes a phone call. And we have home calculator 1 divide by 20. It's at 35 ounces. That's with the motor prop, spinner, and all the parts, less the wheels. So we're looking at a 40-ounce airplane plus the finish. So we're going to be sub 50-ish. So that should be pretty good. It's 660 squares, sub 50. It doesn't quite meet Bob's sub 600 class, but that's the way it goes. But it should be fun to fly. Should be a lot of fun. I'm looking really forward to it. So give me a few minutes. I'll clean up the mess. We'll come back. We'll put it on our lines. And glue the stabilizer in. And within, I would say within, it's 12 o'clock now. By 5 o'clock tonight, it'll be on its wheels. We're a little bit behind schedule because I figured 14 days. Then I'll show you what I'm going to do for the wheel pants. So we'll see in a few. Okay, I thought I'd show this in its entirety. Clean the mess up. I got it back on the center line, but it's not actually set to be glued yet. So in order to do that, we're going to take our squares that we made earlier in the project, and we're going to glue 2 up here to the bench at the nose to keep the nose from moving on the center line. And Need the glue here. I know you can't see what I'm doing at the nose, but I am gluing the triangles to the glass to hold the nose from moving. And we're going to do the same on the tail. We don't want that to move. We know that the trailing edge is parallel to the line that was on the glass. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to level up the wing. After I get these things glued to the glass here. Okay, they're tacked to the glass front on the front. And we'll do the back here. Centered in the tail post and tack down your triangle. Threw away my triangle. So now the fuselage is centered on the jig. Well, that's all well and good. But we still have to level the wing. If we want the wing and stabilizer to be parallel and zero incidence, we level the wing up. So that's going to take a little bit of doing. We get out our wedges that we made. And we start measuring. I had a good little, yeah, we can use this. Couldn't they put the other marks on the other side? There's no way to get that out of there. All the way down. Have to get the bigger square, I guess. I hate it when I can't find things, but that's what happens when you get in the midst of one of these projects. Like, I just had cleaned the shop, and it's now a total disaster. It'll take me another week to clean it out. We're going to be doing a painting series. I'll be painting 2 airplanes for that. We're going to be working on the shoestring, scale airplane, and the Continental here. Well, I don't know what I'm going to use to measure with. What the heck happened to all them measuring tools? I had a good machinist scale. Can't find it. Now let me cut the camera while I dig out the scale. Well, I couldn't find my machinist scale, but I found my other square, so we'll use that. One that reads at least in 16ths. So here we have 1.5. So we need to come up with a little bit more. Measure twice, cut once, because you only get one chance. Couple of thousandths. That's okay, we have the wing leveled to the glass. Now, we know the glass is level because that's our reference point, and the stabilizer is laying flat on the glass. So now we just need to measure to our line that we had marked because we used the big square. And yep, that's down flat on the glass. And we'll tack this, and then I'm going to pick it up and look. So at the tip, we're at 3/8 of an inch there. And you can sight down it and see that it's parallel to the line. Man, I got too much junk here. 3/8 of an inch. Three-eighths of an inch. Put something on it to hold it. Everything's centered. Take some CA and tack it down. The next thing we'll do to make sure that we're okay, we're going to measure from trailing edge to trailing edge. I'm sure that it's fine because, like I say, we use the square. Not what's going on here. Measure twice, cut once, and I guess I got a problem here. So I have an issue, so we're going to have to move this. Eighth of an inch. Eighth. It's amazing that a 32nd of an inch or a pencil line over that amount of distance would make that much, it just starts compounding. So that's good. Now, let's measure this again, make sure we're level still. Less. It ain't. It's gotta go up. Okay. Inch. I'm just using some tape to hold the stabilizer down in the correct position. And now we'll measure trailing edges again. That looks good. Tweak it a little bit more. Okay, that's the position it needs to be in. I took a little finagling there. I was off about a 32nd of an inch. Pencil line. Yeah, but that's okay. Alright, so we got that. But now we have a slight gap there, so we're going to take a sliver of wood off the floor. Let me tape this down a little better. Now Bob Hunt has a video that shows another way to align things, and it's an RC video for aligning an RC pattern ship. But I learned quite a bit from it. So, if you like to watch these movies, and you like any movies, buy it, because it's worth the look at. So we have it in the center. They're parallel. Now I need a razor blade. What did I do with them? Too much stuff. There we go. Cut a sliver of wood. And we'll be filling any gaps with wood before we put any putty on it. That's one. I do this just so we don't have any incidents. Okay, now we're going to tack it. Okay, this elevator stabilizer is now tacked into position. We won't permanently glue it till I take it out of the jig and look. So give me a few minutes and I'll be back. Well, I found out what my problem was. I had it moved over about 1/16 of an inch. So I had to cut it out and redo that whole process I just showed you. It's in there straight now. I got the fuselage completely glued down, and now I've got 220 out, and we're back to shaping. I don't want to show you hours of sanding, but you know, I'll probably spend an hour or so on shaping the fuselage, getting it all blended into the spinner nicely, because we're finishing off the top block now and finishing the oval shape on the top. So like I say, it'll be about an hour. Put a piece of tape on the spinner so you can sand right up to it. I want this one to be extra streamlined and molded nice because the original was. So I'm going to spend a little extra time on shaping this fuselage. I'm thinking that we'll probably glass the nose. I know there's it's probably not really a need for this, because this is not a big powerhouse engine. It's only a Super Tiger 46. But as I stated, I want this to be a special looking airplane. I've ordered a superfill. I think I said that earlier. We're going to cut some plywood gussets here for the front leading and trailing edges, or leading edges of each wing and stabilizer. And thought I'd show this trick too. We're going to shine a shoe. If I can find the take the sandpaper, cut it so we have a good length of it. And this is something that I haven't done in years, because the airplanes we fly are so wide. But I'm going to take the long length of sandpaper here and we'll put it in the and we're gonna shine a shoe and make that completely round. And this will knock off any of the high spots. 220. I'll come back with 320. Haven't done this since the 90s, the shoe shine method. That makes a nice round nose. You have to be careful when you get back here because it's getting wider and we have that fairing that goes up, so we're going to have to hand sand that. Spot there. nice conversation today with a guy named Vic. So welcome, Vic. Hope you learned something from my video. That's nice and round. So we'll stop there with that. And kind of detail sand this in. And on the back, I go to 80 grit. And we're going to finish shaping this fuselage. There's a little bit of stringer left there, so you don't have to worry about biting in the stringer. But remember, I have sanded this top block out pretty well, so we can't go too crazy. But first thing you do is you bring it down level, flat. And the truck. Grit, 30 grit if you got to move a lot of material, but you don't want to do that on this. Then we'll come back to 220 and then down to 320. Then we'll be ready to paper. We could probably paper tomorrow. I want to have paper on it before I start putting the superfill in it. So, after this is shaped, we'll work on wheel pants. I got an idea for the wheel pants so that we can change the tire. Because Tom didn't take apart wheel pants. I guess you had to sand them apart. Well, we didn't fly on pavement, we flew on grass, so the tires wouldn't wear out. Not only that, back in those days, we had perfect wheels. I guess he could have had the Dubro wheels on it, but I seem to remember he had perfect wheels on it. The thin racing wheels. And you can't hardly wear those out. They're hard rubber. We'll go ahead and glue our rudder in and shape that up. Now, what makes this nice is, if you'll notice, there's a notch back here. And this rudder sits right on top of the stabilizer in that notch. So we're going to fill that up with epoxy. And that's going to give us a good, strong bond to the rudder. And strengthen all this tail post. This is very thin. It's only a ½ inch thick back here at the leading edge of the stabilizer. So we don't have a whole lot of room. That's why the clevis we use is there's not much room. Down to 220 now, cleaning it up. Boy, it's got a lot of shape. Nice, oval, thin shape. It's really something else. So, give me about an hour detail sanding and we'll be back, and I'll glue the rudder on, and that'll be that. So we'll see you in a bit. Okay, day 15. It's 100% framed up. We're going to start silk spanning the fuselage. I've got it all sanded in, sanded down to 1000 grit sandpaper. Shape. we're gonna change from building videos to finishing videos. Hang on just a second. We built the airplane 2 weeks. We're going to try to finish it up in 2 weeks. Get you a little look at it. See, shop's really not big enough to get a real good view of everything, but it's very, very nice. I think I'll probably, before I start finishing, go ahead and cut the lead outs and wrap them so I don't have them dragging around the shop. But we're going to get at least 2 coats of dope on the fuselage tonight. That's next. Tomorrow when I come back, we'll probably paper and sand. Now you'll notice that I haven't added the fairings for the flaps, nor have I added the fairings here for the leading edge on either elevator or the stabilizer or the wing. The reason being is we're going to cut some plywood templates, 64th plywood templates, to glue into these areas and then putty down to it. The superfill is harder than balsa wood. If I don't make this wood hard, all we do is end up digging a ditch here, and that's why when you go to the nets and I look at those fillets, they're incorrect. They don't flow perfectly from fuselage to wing. The reason being is that the sequence was out. They added the fillets, added the putty, went ahead and sanded them, and then covered the fuselage. Well, they've dug into the side of the fuselage with a sandpaper, so we're going to harden that up. And I'm also going to lay 1/2 ounce cloth on the nose, and I'll do that after I get a layer of a coat of dope on the airframe. And the reason being is it'll use less Z-epoxy up here with 1 coat of dope or hairspray or something. And I noticed on the forum they were talking about cowl lines. Tom Niebuhr showed his cowl line. If you did the cowl line exactly as I showed you, you'll have 0 gap. This is 0 gap here. So 15 days and we're there. So we'll see you when we start the finishing video tomorrow. Till then, enjoy tight lines. Thanks for watching.